And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review.
Alchemist was one of those games when it came out. It was really inventive. It had an app that added so much, added all these little things where you could do puzzling and other things into a Euro game. Now we're going to be looking at Alchemist the King's Golem, the first expansion for Alchemist, and let's see how it plays. Alchemist the King's Golem comes with 4 different expansions in the box. You can play with one of the expansions or combine and play with up to all 4 expansions in the same game. The first expansion is called Startup Funding. It comes with new startup cards. You're going to get shuffled and you're going to get dealt 4 of them. They do different things, and basically you can get artifact cards, you could get money. So instead of your normal start, everyone's going to have a variable start. You get 4 cards and you decide on which 2 you want to take. And as you can see, gain this after the first round reputation. They all give you different things. Some give you money, this just gives you money. So you're going to pick 2 of the 4. There's also a replicator in this one. The replicator, at the start of this round, use one of your startup cards again. So you get like a second startup card if you get this artifact. Then discard at the end of each following round, use and discard your other startup card. So this will let you replicate your startup cards. There's also book tokens. Book tokens go to the new sheet, the new deduction sheet. Now as you can see in the deduction sheet, there's this new symbol. Let me bring it closer to the camera for you. We have lunar and solar, so the sun and the moon, and now you have sun and moon symbols. And if you go to the library, in the app, you can see there's a new function called Visit Library. And when you go to visit the library, you can now find out if it's a lunar or a solar version of the different types of ingredients in the game. The second expansion, which is called Busy Days, what this one does is it gives you tiles. These tiles, which you can see are marked turns 5 to 6, turns 3 to 4, and turns 1 to 2. They create a variable round choices each round. So in the game you could, you might have these 2 as the first 2. So this might be the first one, this might be the second one. So it will give you choices of what you can do in each of the rounds, as opposed to the standard game where there's one thing on the board. Now you have choices of different things that will happen based on which of these come out each game. So it changes the bidding for turn order and what kind of materials you're going to get for the turn order. The third expansion is called the Royal Encyclopedia. This expansion gives you another board and another thing you can do. In this one, what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out which materials use green. You can put a positive or negative, so you might say these 2 materials use green positive and you put one of your positive signs here, or these 2 use green negative and you put your negative here. You're trying to do that because you're trying to, again, as opposed to proving theories, now you're going to prove an encyclopedia book of these ingredients have different materials, so they both use a positive green or they both use a negative green. Doesn't mean when you combine them that they'll make negative green or positive green, but it means in their actual ingredient they have a negative green or a positive green. Again, just like the regular theories, if you prove this theory with 2, you'll get this. If you already have a theory, you'd have to prove all 3 of these to be able to get that. They also give you more of these ribbons that you could put down, so you can place ribbons out here as well during the game. The last one, and the one that gives the most playability in this game, is the Golem Project. Now the Golem Project, as you can see from the board here, there's a whole new area here for the Golem. There's also new board spaces, and there's also a few more things that come into the game. So with the Golem, the first thing you have over here is the Golem Chart. And there is now an action where you could theorize the golem. So your regular board will sit here, and this board now, it starts the same, but instead of going up like this, you're going to now wrap to these new actions and keep wrapping around the board. So the first action that's new is the Golem Action. The Golem Action allows you to first test the golem, and what you're going to do is you're going to put a material to the golem, and as you can see, there's a new thing called Research Golem in your app. So you're going to research the golem. You're going to put a material up to him, one of your ingredients, and you're going to see what he does. He's either going to steam from his ears, steam from his stomach, or steam from his ears and his stomach. When you do that, you could determine, based on what material it is, if it's using a red or a blue or a green, and if it's using a large or a small or a different material. So you could theorize that when he steams, he uses a large blue and a small red, or when he his stomach, he uses a large green and a large red to make his stomach. Now this one doesn't care about the pluses and minuses. It only cares about the colors and the sizes. So the sizes are what matters in this one versus it. But you must first research him twice before you could actually figure out how to animate him. And when you animate him, you need to figure out which ingredients. So you might say, to animate him, it takes a, you might say to animate him, it takes a blue, a little blue, a big blue, and a big green. So if you do that and you animate him, then you can move all the way up here and that you've animated him and shown that you actually know how to make him both steam from his ears and beat from his heart. So that's this new action over there. There's also a new action on the buying artifacts. This one is a sneaky artifact because there's a king, and as you can see, the king will have different amounts of reward tokens. So you will get reward tokens from the king, and when you get the reward tokens, you can use these reward tokens to spend 1 gold and a reward token, and you can get an artifact. So it's a way to kind of get an under the table artifact because you have favor from the king, and each round there will be a different king comes out with different favors, and in order to get the king you must have proved theories on the golem. So as you can see, there is new sections here. So when you get to the end, you have new things. If you've proven a theorem, or if you've guessed on the golem, this comes at the end of each round. You're going to use these new tokens for the in-between rounds. So here, if you guess the golem, you're going to get 3 checks. If you got a theory, you get 2 checks. If you don't have a theory, you're going to get -2 checks. Also for ribbons, the same thing. So there's going to be new equations that come out in the game. And finally, the scoring in this one works a little differently. But before we get to scoring, let me show you the last new action. That's the library. That action equates back to the books that you're going to get from any of them. And when you go to the library, you'll also find out about the lunar and solar, which will matter in the game. At the end of the game, there's a slightly different scoring than the regular game. You're going to get points based on if you had 1 correct thing all by itself for the golem, you're going to get 4 points. If you had 1 right and 1 wrong, 2. If they were both wrong, -6. And if there was 1 by itself wrong, -8. If you had animated the golem, you'll get +5. In addition, you're going to get points for doing the theories and other points at the end of the game that will also score for the amount of things you have left and other such assorted. So basically this adds in a whole new thing that you're looking for to research. You're looking to research the colors of the golem, and once you get the colors, you're looking to research, in order to animate him, if it's a plus or minus. And once you figure out if it's a plus or minus, obviously the big one is a plus, the small one's a minus. Once you figure that out by the colors, then you have to figure out which symbols you have to use in order to animate the golem. And it will take 1 ingredient to animate that golem. I really like this expansion. I'm a puzzle kind of guy. I love deduction, and this adds those extra layers to deduction. Just like I would say with other expansions, this one, I would say throw all 4 in. Yes, you could only throw 1 in, but it's worth throwing all 4 in at once. You get the Golem, you get those encyclopedias, you get the variable start, and you get the variable bidding. You get everything with this. You get more deduction, you get lunar and solar, you get the Golem, you get the colors, you get that extra level of deduction, and it is really good. I mean, I love deduction games, and I love Euro games. I mean, you can combine both with an amazing app. You get Alchemists. When you add in those extra layers, you get the King's Golem, which is so much worth the extra layers. Usually expansions might not add a lot, but this one adds so much more to it. Now, I'm not going to say this is for everyone, because I love this kind of game. I'm going to be honest, I'm giving it an awesomeness rating of 9. I really love it. I loved Alchemist and I love this. But if you thought Alchemist had too much deduction, you aren't going to like this, because it adds more deduction and it adds harder things. So if you're not, or if you were barely a fan of Alchemist and you didn't feel that the deduction was, you felt it was too hard Alchemist, then you're not going to enjoy this because it adds extra layers. But those extra layers, if you like deduction and you felt Alchemist was a great game and you felt it was moderately easy or decently easy to solve, then you will love this because it adds that much more to the game and it makes it that much more worthwhile. Alchemist King's Golem, I highly recommend.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.